Okay, you guys, I am returning to Joey Diaz. This is the second video of his that I have watched. This one was recommended to me and it has been on my list, and then it was recently recommended again. So I decided I would go ahead and check it out. It's a bit on the longish sort of side, about 15 and a half minutes long. So I guess I'll go ahead and jump into it. It's called Joey Diaz, True Friendship at a Memorial Service. I don't know where it's going to go, but I guess I'll find out.
The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Joey Diaz.
You know, when I was a kid, my mom had a bar and she was popular, so she had a lot of like girlfriends that hung out with her, like hot girls. But there was this one chick that she used to be kind of tight with that I couldn't fucking understand. With the friendship, like they would be on the phone all day. They would talk 5 times a day. If my mother was in the city, she would stop by a house. And then as I got older, I got the backstory that they knew each other in Cuba. And then this lady's name was Z. That's what we're going to call her for this fucking story. Because the names have changed to protect the innocent, all that shit. So they came from Cuba, and Z married some dude and went to Chicago. My mom opted, went to New York, and like 6 months into the marriage, the guy was beating the hell out of Z, and my mom and my dad drove down there and saved her in the middle of the night and took her to New York, and she was indebted to them. And this is like 1960. And, you know, as long as I remember, my mom used to go over there, and I like going over to where she lived because she went on to become a huge drug dealer in New York, right? On 113th and 5th Avenue in the mouth of Spanish motherfucking Harlem, right? And it was scary. It was like The Walking Dead. You see like Puerto Ricans walking around, people fucking nodding on the sidewalks. It was just amazing as a little kid to see this. Fuck the circus and the zoo. These are real fucking animals, like hanging there, laying in their own puke and shit. It's fucking tremendous. So I like going there too because she always give me like a 20 or a 50. As young as I was, she always dropped, and she always did a blast of coke. No matter where the fuck she was, you understand me? So I would go over there, she'd pick me up, kiss me, and then go in her bra, do a line, and ask me how school was. And she went to my first communion. She did a bump kneeling down in the fucking thing. She don't give a fuck. That's a real crazy lady. Not one of these ladies with a tattoo and a hat with a feather. I'm so crazy. No, you're not, all right? No, you're not. You go to yoga at Studio City. You ain't that fucking crazy, all right? Fucking crazy. Go to yoga in Compton, bitch, and then we'll talk. So, go into her house, guys. She lived on the second floor of a bodega. And this is
he looks
the mid-70s. You know, you knocked on Z's door, and a black guy opened the door, and he'd point you to the back. And I knew I would run to the back, and she lived she had like maybe 3 rooms, you know, like a living room, but where she sold coke out of and heroin was this little room that had like beads in the front, like, you know, you opened it up and shit. And she'd be in there watching like novellas with a scale, a bag of coke, a gun, and a motherfucking chihuahua. You understand? Who fucking has a chihuahua for protection?
Well, chihuahuas are very loud, you guys. I mean, I think we all know that. We kind of think of them in general. We people often think of them as little yappers, you know, because they are. And the thing about chihuahuas is, they think they're bigger than they really are. And so many of them are just fearless in that have this huge personality. I mean, I saw a video of a chihuahua chasing off a robber because they can be ferocious little stinks. I'm just thinking of my chihuahua. Well, we have 2, but I'm thinking about Chibi. She is crazy as can be. Yeah, she's pretty ferocious, but she's scared of guys. Which is weird because she didn't used to be when she was a little puppy. She loved everybody. Now she's afraid specifically of men. I can't remember if I've mentioned this before. The only men that she likes are my husband, because he gives her treats every day. My son, because she has no choice but to like him. She lives with him, you know, because we're all living here. And one of my cousins, which is really weird. Every other male that she comes into contact with, she is petrified of. So I call her, well, she's petrified, but I kind of liken it to her she just doesn't like men. So I call her a feminist. And I don't know what happened. I don't know why she's so scared, but all of a sudden anyway, but the point is, she's a spunky little thing, and Chihuahuas are like that. And they are awesome alarm systems because they let you know when a mouse has knocked on the door, I swear. I mean, we don't have mice knocking on the door. I'm over exaggerating, obviously, but they hear everything. It's crazy. So I can see this woman having a Chihuahua as an alarm system lets her know if someone's coming.
Wow, you understand? Who fucking has a Chihuahua for protection?
An alarm.
And she was dark Cuban, so she had big tits and an ass. Like, she was good looking, but she had blonde hair. It was tight. 30 years before Little Kim. I mean, she was way ahead of her fucking time. Finally, like in the 8th or 9th grade, I figured out, they were just good friends. They spoke all the time. Then my mom died. And she was the first phone call I made. And she was the first one there, She made all the funeral arrangements. You motherfuckers been to regular viewings with Gentiles where they sit around and cry and it's like, oh, he was such a great man. That's great. That's great. Then there's Irish fucking wakes where people are drinking and cursing. But then there's Cuban wakes. That makes an Irish wake look like a fucking daycare, okay? They drink 24, and it's open 24 hours. 24 hours funeral parlor. And anything goes. People are doing lines. People are arguing.
Oh my
people
God.
playing dominoes. People playing fucking dominoes at my mother's fucking wake, okay? And the first night, I hear this commotion. And I go in the hallways. Z had the funeral director by the throat because she put the wrong dress on my mother. That is a fucking friend, motherfuckers, right? Like, even, because anybody could be your fucking friend when you're alive. But to fucking be at your funeral smacking motherfuckers, right? That's a friend, right? That's a fucking friend, And she was checking people. Like, hey, fuck you. You didn't like her and she didn't fucking like you. Get out. She was checking people, And all these people in there, oh, we love Denora and all this shit. You didn't hear shit from this lady. You didn't hear a word. There was no fakeness out of her. Right there, I learned what fake was and what real it was. At that early age, I learned it. I saw it. Like, people come up to me, oh my God, if you need anything. And then after my mom died, I call them and they changed their fucking phone number. But just little things that I saw right there. And I decided, oh my God, that's what a fake person is. I loved your mother. Oh God, take me. All that shit. The whole fucking 4 days of the wake, Z didn't say shit. She would every once in a while just sit in the back and just take a little bump out of her bra and look at me and go, and she would just watch what was going on. And she was such a woman, like, men would be having conversation. I'm not talking about regular fucking guys. I'm talking about Latin, old school, machismo motherfuckers. And she would go tell them shit, like, shut the fuck up. Like, even they were scared of her. And I observed all this, like how she had taken over from my mother. And then the last night, my mom got buried on a Monday. And that Sunday, I went outside to smoke a joint, whatever the fuck you go outside of a wake for, to get air.
Okay.
And when I came back, she was alone with my mother. It was the first time they were alone together. And she was kneeling down. And that's where I got it. She was petting her hair. And she was telling her how beautiful she was. And how the world wasn't going to be the same without her. And how she was going to miss her. And she was her sister. And it was just fucking mind-boggling. And then she said, and she turned, like, she knew I was there. And she goes, I'm going to take care of this motherfucker. I'm going to take care of him. I'm going to watch over him. I'm going to make sure he grows up to be a fucking man. And I saw the meaning of friendship right there when Z was petting the fucking hair and doing bumps. She did a fucking bump right there, right? She did a bump looking at the casket. She's like, I'd give you one, but what's the difference at this point? But then it was after that. She stuck to her fucking word. Every Sunday, she'd come over from Long Island and meet me at Weehawken Cemetery. And she'd bring a bottle of Dewar's, flowers, and she'd pour the bottle of Dewar's out and tell my mother how much she loved her and she missed her. And she'd do some bumps. And by that time, I was doing coke. And she would, like, do bumps into the spirit. Like, here's a couple for you. And I'd be like, no, give them fucking things to me.
Jeez.
You're going to fucking throw them on the grass. It's $20 a fucking blast there. $20, $20, $20. Stop it already. Give it to me.
Okay. I wonder how young he was when his mother died. I mean, seems to me that Well, he says she would come every week, so that means I guess he was old enough to be on his own. I can't quite tell. Unless he had, unless if he was young, he had other people he was staying with, maybe other people in the family. I don't know. I guess I should. Maybe it says somewhere like on his Wikipedia page or something. Okay.
So this went on. She took care of me, guys, from 79 till 83 till I got out of high school. Every fucking Sunday, 200 fucking beans. Right, and she'd bring me weed, a little $5 nickel bag from the city. And then in 83, I moved to Colorado and, I got into craziness and shit. But I always called it.
Sounds like he was already into craziness if he was doing coke at that age.
And then in 83, I moved to Colorado and, I got into craziness and shit. But I always called her twice a week. I would send her pictures, And then I moved back to Jersey. And by that time, I was a fucking lunatic, and cocaine had absorbed me and stuff. And I kept in touch with her. And I would go into the city once a week and take her for a Cuban sandwich. There was a place on 118th Street we walked. And I went to Miami and I found some friends of hers and I beat them for like a half a kilo. And I just felt fucking bad. You know how it is, dog. One bump leads into another. Next thing you know, you're having a party. Next thing you know, you did 6 ounces of blow. It's a fucking nightmare. You know what I'm saying? And there's no rehabs. There's no hugs. They don't give a fuck. That's it. So I felt embarrassed. I came back from Miami and I'd fucked these people over. I felt embarrassed, so I didn't call her. I didn't call her for like 5 months. And in January of 85, I finally got a little sober, and I called her one day, and I go, Z, what's going on? And she's like, where the fuck have you been? She goes, you haven't called me in like 5 months. She goes, the cops raided me. They took everything. She goes, my leg broke, and there was nobody here for me. Ooh. And I felt fucking terrible. Ooh. I let my mother down. I let myself down. I let Z down. And I was at a payphone, and I just dropped the fucking payphone. It was like a kick in my stomach. Like she had just said, where the fuck were you for me? For all those years I was there for you and you just disappeared on me. And I just felt terrible. And I walked away from the payphone. I didn't call her for about a week or two. And then I finally called and the phone was disconnected. And I went over to the bodega a few times and they told me that she got busted and they closed the apartment. And I never talked to her again. And I felt like shit. And I live with that today. And that was 1985, and I thought about it and I digested it and I swore to God that if I ever had a chance to be a friend to somebody, because you don't need 20 friends, you just need 3 motherfuckers and you could take over a country. Okay, that's what we're confused as Americans. We think we need all these motherfuckers. You give me 3 bad motherfuckers and you're finished. You understand me? You're fucking finished because we got each other. And listen, man. Like Ari's my fucking Goomba to the end. He might be a Jew or whatever, and I'm Cuban, but that's my fucking Goomba, and he knows that's why I'm here. Not because whatever, but, I promised that I would be a friend to people and I would live and die for them. And, when I look at people now, I always look at people sometimes and I go, how's that motherfucker going to feel when I die? Is he going to be talking shit at my funeral? Or is he going to squeeze my daughter and come see her every week and give her a toy? And that's how I have to look at people. That's how I was raised, And I always lived with that guilt of not doing something for my friend. And then in 2007, I got off the blow. I quit doing cocaine.
Oh, wow. So he was hooked on that stuff for a long time. So I don't know when this was recorded, but 2007, it's not been that, it's been a long while that he's been clean, but, not really a long while compared to how long he was doing it, I guess. That's too bad because it seems to me that his addiction messed up his friendship with this woman. Not that she obviously, it sounds to me like she had her own issues, but seemed to me like that wasn't something that necessarily got in the way of her being a friend to him. But yet he wasn't able to reciprocate in the same way. That's unfortunate. That eats at him. You can tell it does. She's probably, she might be gone now. That's crazy. Yeah, that's too bad. I can tell that's something that really bothers him. And with good reason, Something
for my friend. And then in 2007, I got off the blow. I quit doing cocaine. Don't ask, don't clap. Nobody's supposed to do it anyway, People are like, I'm off drugs. You're an asshole. You're not supposed to do drugs anyway, okay? Don't fucking break your arm tapping yourself in the back, asshole.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm of the mentality that, people legally should, if that's something that they choose to do to themselves, then so be it. But I also agree with him that that's not necessarily something that is the best. It's not really, it's not healthy for anybody to be addicted to stuff like that. It just isn't. If you want to do those things to yourself, by all means, it's you. That's your thing. But he has a pretty hard line approach to, getting clean. Don't pat me on the back because I shouldn't have done it in the first place. I mean, he's certainly no nonsense about it, isn't he? I appreciate that too, because I was like, he's telling all this stuff and he talks about it so casually, I'm like, good night. I wonder if he, like he said he got off of it, and right before he talked about the rest of it, I was thinking to myself, well, does he, is he glad he got off of it? I mean, obviously, if you get off of it, it's because you don't want to be on it anymore. And seems to me like he, has learned his lesson, I guess. It's not mentally healthy. It's not physically healthy. It's so bad. So terribly destructive to your body, so many things.
Don't fucking break your arm tapping yourself in the back, asshole. So, right or wrong, these motherfuckers walk around with their water. I'm sober now. Who gives a fuck? 2 months ago, you were sucking dick for rock at the Roxy. Now I gotta fucking shake your hand. Fuck you. Motherfuckers don't know, you know what I'm saying? So I got off coke. I had been off coke like 4 days. And that was tough for me. I used to go like 18 hours. And I'm like, ooh.
I bet. Yeah.
That's a long fucking time,
Mm-hmm.
I was clean for 4 days and a dear friend of mine died. She was a comedian. She died of cancer. Mm-hmm. And there was this one producer that used to mess with us all the time here in LA. He would have these festivals and tell us that he was going to book us and then decide, oh, no, I'm not hiring dirty comics this year. Why would you have to work so dirty? He'd make us feel bad about being dirty comics. We were just expressing who the fuck we were, you know what I'm saying? So I saw him then. He had messed with me and Marilyn a couple times. And I saw him at the church. Right? I saw him at the church, but it was 10 o'clock. I was a little on the stone side. I said, I might as well not say nothing. Sometimes you do a bong hit before church just to calm your nerves. Sometimes
no,
just
do?
one and a half.
I didn't know
just
that.
just to loosen you up before church.
Okay.
And because church sucks without a bong hit. Trust me, that's why it sucked as a kid. Once you started doing bong hits, church ain't that bad. It's a fucking hour. People shake hands. They give you a cookie. Everybody.
Okay.
Peace be with you. You know what I'm saying? Right or wrong? Peace be with you, brother. Peace be with you. Peace be with you.
Okay.
So that night they had a memorial at a comedy club, and when I walk into the memorial, well, they had free food at the memorial, they buried her that day, but they had like a microphone. They had a picture where you're gonna go up and say words. Then they had free food. When I walk in, guess who's eating the fucking free motherfucking food?
Okay.
That motherfucking producer. Now, by that time, it's after 8 o'clock. The cocaine addiction is growing. I'm getting madder by the minute. I'm Cuban. It's just developing, right? Mm-hmm. And they come over to me and they go, listen, we do the memorial. Can you go up on stage first? And I'm like, absolutely. And I'll get my words over and I'll get the fuck out of here. So I go home and go to sleep before I choke this motherfucker too, right?
Oh, no.
So they said, Joe, come into the stage, Joey Diaz. I go on stage, people, you know me. I talk for like a minute and this motherfucker's over there with that smile on his face. When somebody's got like that smile on their fucking face. And in the middle of my memorial, I just stopped. And I go, I don't know what the fuck you're smiling about, motherfucker, But I tell you what, I'm going to go get a drink. And when I get back, you, your wife, and that fucking attorney better get the fuck out of here. Because I'm going to fuck you motherfuckers up. And I was serious, Jack. I was fucking serious. Like, I was done. Like 7 days without a line of coke. this motherfucker, this is my out. I'll beat him up. And then fucking they'll throw me in county jail for 30 days. By the time I got out, I'll be clean and sober. I mean, that was my fucking...
Was that his point?
That's how you got to think when you're fucking addicted, how I was, you know?
Oh.
But I was really pissed about what this motherfucker had done to me and to Marilyn, and how he had the balls to show up at this fucking wake with that smile on his fucking face. And as I went to the drink and I came back in and him and his fucking family were gone, when I walked to my car, I thought about one thing, that I'm through. I did what I had to do without even knowing. I stuck up for one of my friends who had died. And that night I became that much better as a human fucking being. I made my peace with Z. I made my peace with my mother. And most importantly, I made my peace with myself. And that's my story about that.
Well, that was a touching story, and you could tell that he feels still very deeply impacted by those things that he went through in his life, those regrets that he has, you know. One of the worst things, there's different levels of bad in life, you know, obviously, but one of the worst things is a terrible sense of regret for things that you can't fix, things you can't make better, you can't change them, and it can really eat you up inside, you know, and the only thing that you can really do to sort of get past it is just try to work on yourself in that moment and make yourself a better person, and to ensure that you don't do the things in the future that you very much regret from your past. And it seems to me like that's something that he, you know, it's sort of a lesson that he learned, something that he tried to live up to. He feels like he has. It also seems to me that he feels like, I guess a lot of us do, or, you know, maybe if we don't, we should, that we're all like a work in progress, you know? I mean, nobody's going to reach this sense of, we're never going to reach perfection because we're people and we're never going to be. But the important thing is to try to ensure that we're sort of aiming for, I don't know if you would say perfection, but just aiming for something so much better than we are in that moment. You know, to try to make ourselves a better person in all different aspects. And you know, he's crude, he's rude, I guess you could consider. I mean, you would consider that to be rude, what he said at the his friend's funeral, but at the same time, you can completely understand why he said what he did. I mean, that guy sounds like that's one of the things, you know, like I've mentioned before in one of my other videos, I don't remember which one, that I'm personally not very good at small talk, inconsequential talk. You okay, Dora? Inconsequent, like things that aren't really, it's hard for me to explain what I feel like small talk is, but it's like if I don't have a connection with someone, if there's not something that draws me to them, whatever it is, like let's say we're talking about movies or books, something that interests both of us, and we can have this really interesting conversation going. If I don't have that sort of connection with someone, whoever it is I'm conversing with, then I don't know what to say. And it's very uncomfortable to feel like you have to think of something to say. So I don't know, but to get it, what I'm trying to get around to is it feels fake, right? If you're trying to have this small talk with people, it's just not there, you know, like you're just trying to fill the time with this conversation. But what I was trying to tie into that is about funerals. So like a lot of people, they'll show up for a funeral but then it's like you lose contact with these people that show up and express sympathy, and you feel like maybe that was something that was only done because they felt like they had to, because it was something that was socially expected, not because they necessarily really cared. Like this dude, he just shows up there, and it seems to me like it was just for appearances, and I think that was obviously something that got under his skin, and I can understand why, because the dude was fake. And it's not, I mean, maybe I'm being unfair to talk about it that way, as far as, people that show up to a funeral just because they feel like they have to or whatever. Then you never hear from them again. It's like, sometimes the only time that you hear from people is when there's been a death, or when you're going through a terrible situation. Then all of a sudden, people that aren't typically those who make contact, they show up. And I don't know, maybe I'm just kind of in a mood right now, but those sorts of things sometimes can get under my skin. Right now, I think they're getting under my skin a little bit just because of the subject matter that I watched, what he's talking about here. But I don't know. I feel like I'm talking in circles. I'm not really explaining myself very well, but I think I get completely what he's talking about. He doesn't like fake people. He doesn't like that superficial stuff. He doesn't respect that. He respects things that are meaningful and deep, and people that are genuine. That's what I gathered from this anyway. And when the stuff he was talking about just kind of sparked all these different little thoughts in me, and I don't know. Maybe it was a little bit too harsh, like I said, but whatever. I'm a little distracted. My dog is walking around. She's not comfortable. My poor dog, Dora. Anyway, well, I feel like I didn't go anywhere constructive with that at all, but hopefully it makes a little bit of sense. I feel like I need to edit out a lot of these long pregnant pauses, but whatever. Anyway, well, that was touching in a crude sort of way. That is his personality. That is the way he is. But you can tell that he has a very sensitive side. I really appreciate that. I appreciate that people aren't afraid to show their sensitive side. The things that really are very impactful to them. I appreciate that people aren't afraid to express those sorts of things, and because it makes you feel vulnerable to do that. It makes you feel kind of like maybe people are going to laugh at you or mock you, and he was willing to open up about stuff like that. So okay, well, I don't have anything else, so I'm going to go ahead and call this one quits. Later, guys.